Around Australia with the John Laws Morning Show, 1332, our telephone number. I've just, as you know, finished 50 years in broadcasting. And I didn't think anybody was as stupid as staying around in any industry for 50 years. Until I met Petula Clark, who's been in the industry for 6 decades. But that's not 60 years, is it, really? I mean, you haven't. You must have been 1 when you started.
Of course, darling, yes, of course. How are you, John?
I'm very well, Petula, thank you. And thank you so much for helping charity on Monday night. It was wonderful of you to do it.
Not at all, it's a pleasure. As I said that night, I was very flattered to have been asked, and that I was able to say yes, because sometimes you just can't fit these things in.
But what about the effect you had on the people? Singing all those songs that we all love and everybody singing along with you. It was just, it made the night, I promise you, it made the night.
I thought everybody was very good on the show, actually. How did I feel? Well, good, but, I only did, about 25 minutes or something like that. And in the shows that I'll be doing, that I am doing on tour here in Australia, I do about 2.5 hours. So I'm able to do much more than just the hit songs. And if I just went on every night and did the hit songs, it would be a little boring after a while.
For you?
I think for me, and eventually for the audience, I think. I think what makes the show, people who come to see me, you're absolutely right, of course, they come to hear the hits.
Yeah.
And I do them. But I think most people leave remembering the other things that I do in the show.
What other things do you do?
I do some new songs, I do some poetry, I play the piano, I talk. So it's much more than just a string of hit songs.
But you've certainly had a string of hit songs. How many? I've lost count.
Don't know, really.
Oh, you must.
No, I don't.
Really?
No, I don't know. Well, it depends on which country you're talking about, too, because in America I had probably more in the 60s than anywhere else, more than in England, perhaps more than here. But then, of course, I had a few hits before the 60s, and I've had a few since.
When was the very first hit?
I think it must have been way back. I'm terrible at dates. You probably know better than I do. I was looking at all your reference books in your office just now, so I'm sure you know.
No.
In the 50s, probably.
Mid-50s.
Mid-50s. I had a hit with a song called Little Shoemaker.
Yeah. Well, that was 53.
Was it?
53.
Well, if you say so.
Well, there you are.
Yeah.
You've been working for a very, very long time, but obviously watching you do it doesn't feel like work. You love it.
I do, yeah. That's really why I go on doing it. And if people still want to hear me, and my voice seems to be actually better than it ever has been, and I'm enjoying doing it. Why shouldn't I go on doing it?
And you've got a #1 record in France, Germany, and Canada. Top 10 in the United Kingdom, the Ultimate Tour CD.
Yes, it's doing very well.
So people are still buying the stuff, aren't they?
Yes, you're inclined when you're listening to all these young performers, and some of them are absolutely wonderful, don't get me wrong, but one is inclined to think, well, that's what the record business is all about, and if you're not young and showing great part, lots of body,
they certainly do that.
Then you're not in the business. That's not quite true, because there is another audience out there who like music and are still buying records.
Well, I mean, you had 600 of them in your hand on Monday night. Everybody there loved the songs, and why not? I mean, when you think of some of them, Downtown, that just lights up everybody's life. It's such a powerful song in many ways.
There's something about that song, yes, and it just keeps coming back, I'm asked to go back to New York, for example, all the time, because the Twin Towers, of course, were downtown, and Downtown, when it first came out, was the sort of anthem for New York, and it still is in a different way. So it's just got something about it, that song.
Oh, it's got magic about it. Who's been responsible for the majority of the songs? Did you work closely with songwriters?
Well, Tony Hatch and Jackie Trent, who lived here, of course, for a long time, and did Neighbours as well. They wrote that.
Yeah, they wrote that.
They wrote Downtown. Well, I think actually Tony wrote Downtown, and then Jackie came on the scene a bit later Don't Sleep in the Subway.
Great
and
song.
I love that song. I Know a Place, Couldn't Live Without Your Love, My Love. It just goes on and on.
Couldn't Live Without Your Love is a terrific song too. It's one of those, they had a terrific ability to write kind of build-up songs that had a real burst, Downtown.
They're very well constructed.
Yeah.
And if you're a musician, you will know what I mean. But even listening to them, you can hear that they have shape, they have form, and they seem to be reaching for something. And that makes them very exciting to sing. Sometimes difficult, but very exciting to sing.
When you sit down and play piano, what do you play?
Oh, I play piano by ear, John. You know, I'm not an educated musician. You know, I can't read music, but I have a very good ear, and I write on the piano. So what do I like to play?
No, I mean on the show when you sit down and play.
Well, I do a tribute to Charlie Chaplin, who wrote This Is My Song, of course, and so I've incorporated Smile and the theme from Limelight into this little tribute. So I play and sing, and then I play and sing a song which I wrote myself called Here For You. Sometimes I'll do a French song, La Vie en Rose, which I play and sing at the same time.
Do you sing No Regrets?
No, I don't. You know, Piaf is something of a... she's a bit sort of sacred in
Yes,
France.
you've got to be a bit careful, I guess.
Well, yes, and because, you know, I have this French career and this French thing in my life, even singing La Vie en Rose is difficult for me because it's like singing one of Judy Garland's songs. You know, there was only one Judy Garland, and she sang those songs better than anyone else. Not necessarily better, but it was right. Yeah. It was hers. You know. Well,
there's only one Petula Clark. Yeah, true. I mean, nobody sings songs like you.
I don't know. I've never thought about that.
Think about it. Nobody does. But also, nobody sort of got songs like you. You were pretty smart to find the right songs.
It was an accident, John. It really, really was. I mean, I was living in Paris during the 60s and doing all my recording in London, and Tony Hatch just kind of put the records together. He wasn't choosing the material, you know, and I was recording mostly in French, Italian or German.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, well, I moved to France when I married a Frenchman and suddenly found myself, living in France and performing in French, and I became their favourite singer very quickly. So I had this big career going on, which wasn't anything to do with English suddenly, you know. And it had been a long time since I'd recorded in English, and Tony said, you know, you really should be recording in English again. And I said, well, I will if I can find the right song. And he said, well, I've just started writing this song. I have the tune, I have a title. Would you like to hear it? I said, sure. And he started playing Downtown on the piano. And I said, whoa, that's a great tune.
Yeah, well, you're right.
Yeah, and it just went on from there.
You met Charlie Chaplin, didn't you?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Did you spend a great deal of time with him?
I spent a fair amount of time with him.
What sort of man was he?
He was absolutely delightful. I mean, he was already quite an old man.
Yeah.
And he was delighted because This Is My Song, you know, the song that he wrote for the Countess from Hong Kong, had become this huge world hit, and I had recorded it. So he wanted to meet me, and he wanted to entertain me, and he made the tea, and then he said, you know, I'm so thrilled, I want to sing and dance. I said, well, go ahead, you know, it's your house.
And
he said, no, I want you to play piano for me. So I did, you know.
But it really has been wonderful to see you. You've worked with some fascinating people. Fred Astaire?
Yes, Fred was great, you know. In a way, he was a bit of a snob, you know, because he didn't like anything mediocre.
No, perfectionist.
Very much so.
I met him in a toy shop in Los Angeles, and he was impeccably dressed. He had a blue yachting jacket on with gold buckles, right. And he was buttons. He was wearing a cravat, and he looked splendid. And he was standing next to me in the toy shop, and it was around Christmas time, and he was obviously buying stuff for kids. And he bought a whole lot of stuff. And I just said, would you like me to carry that to the car? I didn't mention his name or anything. I said, can I give you a hand to carry that? Because he had too much. He said, well, that's very nice of you. So I walked around to the car. He said, you haven't mentioned my name. And I said, well, I'm not carrying this stuff because of your name. I'm carrying this stuff because I wanted to carry the stuff.
That's nice.
And he just stood and talked, and he was so charming.
Oh, he's lovely.
Yeah, he really was so charming.
Yeah, a lovely, lovely man. You're saying that he looked great. The problem with the movie that we were making, Finian's Rainbow, is that he had to look a bit like a tramp.
Scruffy, yeah.
Scruffy. And they had a terrible time making him look scruffy because they would tie a piece of string around his waist, and it would suddenly look as if Yves Saint Laurent had said, you've got to wear string around your waist this year, Eventually it was his 3-day beard that made him look scruffy, but otherwise they could not make this man look shabby.
No, he was a very neat little man. Very neat in every way, wasn't he?
But he had style.
Terrific style.
There are some people you can put anything on them and they look great.
Yeah, he had.
And vice versa. There's some people you can dress them up and they'll still look awful,
What about Peter O'Toole? What was he like?
He was great. He really, really was. I mean, I can't say that I've worked with anyone that I haven't liked. Of course, I admired both of them,
of course.
But people can be disappointing sometimes when you meet them. But certainly, Fred and Peter. No, Peter was, and still is, a very generous actor. He's an incredible actor.
And never had an Academy Award.
No. I think he was nominated for...
I think 7 times.
7 times, yeah, including Goodbye, Mr. Chips.
That's right. Have you seen that film he did called The Ruling Class?
Yes, of course.
Where he's a schizophrenic?
Oh, he's brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
You have to see him on stage, though. On stage, he is extraordinary because, he's very, very tall. And he's very loose-limbed, and it looks as if he's walking across the stage in 3 steps. He's so enormous and loose. I think he's even better on stage than on screen. And
beautiful looking. Well, he certainly was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Looking. And probably age hasn't done him much harm.
No, last time I saw him, he was looking a little frail, but he really. He was hitting the bottle a bit.
Yeah.
He's an Irishman, so...
Well, that's right.
Sorry, folks, I know it's St. Patrick's Day, but you know what I mean.
I sure do. And he was hitting the bottle with somebody that I met and knew, and you probably did too, Richard Harris.
Richard Burton.
Yeah, and Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris were very close friends, apparently. And,
yes, and the Burton, the Burtons.
So you've certainly lived through a fascinating time, haven't you?
I suppose so, but I feel as if I'm living through a fascinating time now.
Yeah,
I don't
are.
Look too much into the past. Who was it? Simone Signoret said, "Nostalgia's not what it used to be."
That's exactly right. Yeah.
It's good, to talk about the past, but I don't live in the past at all. I'm very much a today person.
Well, I think it's terrific that you are, and I think it's wonderful that you're still sharing your talents. Do you ever stop and think how much pleasure you've given millions and millions of people all over the world?
No. Do you?
No, but I haven't, like you.
Oh, I'm sure you have. We mentioned this the other night when we were chatting.
Yeah.
When I was in my teens, I was in hospital for about a month, and I couldn't watch television, I couldn't read, and I listened to the radio. And radio is an incredible thing. Also, you can use your imagination when you're listening to the radio. It's the human voice is a very important thing.
I think it's terrific, really terrific, and I think you're terrific too. And I'm very flattered that you came to see me.
I'm delighted to be here. What a lovely view you have.
Not bad, is it?
Gorgeous.
Now you've got more touring to do yet, haven't you?
Yes, I'm in Newcastle tonight. We are on live, aren't we now?
Yep, so you're in Newcastle tonight.
Yes.
Then in Canberra on Friday. We broadcast in all these areas. And in Wollongong on Saturday.
Wollongong, what a lovely word.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So's Woolloomooloo.
Yes, I know. I haven't been to Woolloomooloo, but I went to Toowoomba, which is a lovely little town.
Yes, it is. Terrific town.
Yeah.
Really terrific town.
Charming.
We broadcast there too, so you can say good morning to Toowoomba.
Hi, everybody in Toowoomba. I love you. I love it up there. It's a sweet little town.
I can tell one day you might come and live in
Settle.
Australia.
If I settle anywhere, it might be here.
Good. And thank you so much for coming to see me. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
And we'll remind ourselves of some of those songs.